Good evening, everyone, and welcome back to Sudan in a Week, where we take a closer look at the key events that shaped the past few days. The president of the Sudanese Transitional Sovereign Council, Abdel Fattah al-Burhan, received Major General Al-Noor Ahmed Adam, known as Al-Noor al-Guba, after he defected from the Rapid Support Forces, RSF. Al-Noor al-Guba is seen as one of the top military leaders in the RSF, with some ranking him third in command. In an official statement, al-Burhan welcomed his decision to join the Sudanese Armed Forces SAF, saying the doors opened for anyone willing to leave armed groups and help rebuild the country. The meeting came hours after the Sudanese Revolutionary Awakening Council, RAC, also welcomed the move, confirming that Al-Noor al-Guba and his forces joined the SAF with military equipment and vehicle. Mini Arko Menawi, governor of the Darfur region, commended what he characterized as the honorable stance of left-wing parties within the Swiss parliament. He specifically highlighted their explicit support for the Sudanese people, particularly in the Darfur region, as they face significant civilian casualties and grave violations resulting from the insurgency of the Rapid Support Forces (RSF) militias, which he designated as a terrorist militia. Governor Menawi stated that the Swiss position reflects a genuine commitment to the principles of justice and human rights, asserting that such international stances prove the global conscience remains active. He further noted that this parliamentary support serves as a vital mechanism for amplifying the voices of victims within the international community. The governor called for translating these diplomatic positions into tangible actions that facilitate accountability for those responsible for these crimes and alleviate the protracted suffering of the Sudanese people. He concluded by urging global political and humanitarian entities to emulate this precedent, advocating for a universal alignment with justice and the protection of civilians against ongoing violations perpetrated by the RSF terrorists.
سعيد جدا أشكر من هذا المنبر دولة سويسرا، الدولة التي برهنت على العالم كله بأن تفرض هيبة السلام والمدنية في كل العالم، وأنا سعيد جدا. وكذلك من هذه المنصة أحيي جميع الحضور من جميع الفئات العمرية وجميع الجاليات السودانية اللي أتت من مختلف مواقع السودان أو مواقع أوروبا.
Prime Minister Kamal Idris received an update today on the work of the International Claims Committee, which is responsible for taking legal action against the RSF, its allies and supporters. During a meeting with Justice Minister Abdullah Mohammed Darf, he was presented with the new legal strategies to be used at the International Court of Justice and other international courts. The RSF is widely seen as a continuation of the Janjaweed militias, which were active in the Darfur in the early 2000s and later reorganized into the RSF in 2013. The Minister of Justice also shared a draft plan to review land dispute laws. The goal is to organize these disputes better, speed up solutions, and create a more attractive environment for foreign investment.
نورنا معالي رئيس الوزراء عن أعمال لجنة الدعاوى الدولية فيما يتعلق بمقاضاة الميليشيا المتمردة الإرهابية ومعاونوها ومساندوها، وما قامت به اللجنة والمقترحات التي قدمت في إطار مسارات التقاضي الجديدة أمام محكمة العدل الدولية وأمام المحاكم الدولية المختصة، وهناك إجراءات تفصيلية في هذا الشأن قمنا بتنوير معالي رئيس الوزراء بشأنها.
Egyptian President Abdel Fattah al-Sisi met today with Mas'ad Boulos, senior advisor to the U.S. President for Arab and African Affairs. The meeting included Egypt's foreign minister, intelligence chief, and several U.S. officials. According to the presidency spokesperson, Boulos delivered greetings from U.S. President Donald Trump. The discussion focused on the situation in Sudan. Both sides stressed the need for strong diplomatic efforts to end the conflict and reduce humanitarian suffering. El-Sisi also welcomed the €1.5 billion pledged at the Berlin conference to support Sudan. He reaffirmed Egypt's position based on 3 points: sovereignty, non-interference, and political stability. Bulus praised Egypt's important role and efforts to bring stability to Sudan. Dr. Mayada Swaril-Dahab, chairperson of the Liberal Democratic Party, expressed her rejection of the Berlin conference proceedings held on April 15, 2026 regarding Sudan. Her stance is rooted in a fundamental national principle focused on safeguarding Sudanese sovereignty and protecting the independence of national decision-making from any attempts to reshape it under external pressure or tutelage. The party chairperson emphasizes that the conference lacks fair and balanced representation of the various components of the Sudanese landscape that reflect internal national will. Furthermore, she asserts that bypassing official frameworks and national institutions in addressing the crisis constitutes a direct infringement on state sovereignty. This leads to grave political consequences, namely granting indirect legitimacy to the militia and its allies and providing them with a negotiation position that lacks legal or national foundations, ultimately undermining the principle of the state and weakening the prospects for an adjustment settlement based on sound principles. During his visit to the United States, Amjad Farid al-Tayyib, political advisor to the President of the Sovereignty Council and Army commander, held what he described as important meetings with members of Congress. The talks focused on the war in Sudan and humanitarian situation and the impact of foreign involvement. In his meeting with Representative Jim Bayard, he discussed Sudan's history and the suffering caused by the RSF, which he claimed is supported by the UAE. He also met Representative Sarah Jacobs and thanked her for supporting the Sudanese people. They discussed ways to stop what he described as UAE involvement in the war, including preventing weapons from reaching the RSF. Al-Tayyib also supported the Stand Up for Sudan Act introduced by Sarah Jacobs and Senator Chris Van Hollen, which aims to limit U.S. arms sales to the UAE until it stops supporting the RSF. He added that continued support to the RSF has helped expand the conflict towards Sudan's eastern border. The Secretary of Sudanese Working Abroad SSWA issued an official statement today regarding the protests organized by the Sudanese diaspora against the so-called Berlin Conference. The Secretary characterized the conference as a project led by regional powers in collaboration with domestic factions acting in opposition to the will of the state and its people. The SSWA said in its statement that the demonstration held by Sudanese nationals today in Berlin stands against the so-called Berlin Conference, which is led by regional powers with the participation of internal forces that have chosen to move in direction contrary to the people and the nation. These factions do not represent the Sudanese people. The statement added that this protest represents a fundamental right to expression, underscoring that any political movement that does not involve the state and the people is destined to fail from its inception. Former UN official and Government of Hope Representative Kamal Idris spoke about the Sudan crisis, saying it is urgent as the war enters its 4th year. He described the conflict as an imposed war that began on April 13, 2023. He said the RSF started it by surrounding Merowe airport after moving weapons and fighters into Khartoum. Idris also criticized the international response, especially the Berlin Conference, calling it a missed chance to find real solutions. He said excluding the Sudanese government and civilians from discussions is a mistake, stressing that those most affected by the war should be part of any decision about the country's future.
I stand before you from the banks of the Nile, from the land where history runs as deep as the river itself, from where the deserts know the footprints of ancient kingdoms, ancient civilizations. and from where, in this present hour, the dust still carries the scent of war.
Mr. Abel Ahmed Mohammed, the acting charge d'affaires of the Embassy of the Republic of Sudan to the Republic of Ireland, met today with Ms. Verona Murphy, Speaker of the Irish Parliament. During the meeting, he provided a comprehensive briefing on the evolving situation in Sudan and the aggression and violations facing the Sudanese people, supported by certain regional and international countries and powers. The meeting also addressed ways to strengthen parliamentary relations between the two countries. Both parties agreed to work toward establishing a Parliamentary Friends of Sudan group, which will serve as an essential nucleus for building closer ties between the two friendly nations and supporting bilateral cooperation across various fields. The U.S. Department of the Treasury's Office of Foreign Assets Control announced targeted sanctions against 3 individuals and 2 entities implicated in the recruitment and deployment of Colombian mercenaries to bolster the Rapid Support Forces (RSF) terrorists in Sudan. These measures arrive as the Sudanese conflict enters its 4th year, marking a continued effort by the United States to disrupt the RSF's operational capacity. The RSF, an outgrowth of the Janjaweed militias responsible for historical atrocities in Darfur, remains under intense international scrutiny for alleged war crimes and crimes against humanity, which have precipitated an unprecedented global humanitarian crisis. The Federation of Sudanese Industries said Sudanese investment in real estate in Egypt has risen to about $4 billion, up to $23 billion at the start of the war. It is also noted that Sudanese factories now operating in Egypt are unlikely to return soon. Since the RSF conflict began in April 2023, around 1.5 million Sudanese have moved to Egypt, adding to an existing community of about 2 million. As a result, many Sudanese companies shifted their factories to Egypt and now export their products back to Sudan. This situation has also reduced money sent back to Sudan. The country is losing at least $7 billion each year in remittances, as these funds are now spent in Egypt on housing, education, and healthcare. The Austrian foreign minister reaffirmed her country's strong support for Sudan, noting past humanitarian assistance and expressing readiness to increase aid after field assessments of the situation. Austria also offered to host rounds of Sudanese dialogue in Vienna, including informal track 2 talks. The Sudanese foreign minister welcomed the idea, stressing Sudan's openness to initiatives that support a national solution while respecting sovereignty. The discussions took place between Sudanese Foreign Minister Mohiuddin Saleh and his Austrian counterpart during the Antalya Diplomacy Forum, according to the Sudanese embassy in Vienna. Both sides agreed to reactivate bilateral cooperation through the Political Consultation Committee and to strengthen cooperation between government institutions and the private sectors of both countries. The Sudanese Businessmen Federation announced a high-level Sudanese-Saudi business forum to be held in June in Riyadh. The forum aims to address key investment challenges, especially issues related to banking, transfers, and financial liquidity between the two countries. It will be the first major business summit between Sudan and Saudi Arabia since the conflict in Sudan began in April 2023. The initiative follows a Saudi cabinet decision in October 2023 approving a joint coordination council to strengthen long-term economic cooperation. Sudan has also prepared around 100 investment projects for Saudi partners worth about $50 billion, focused on key sectors linked to recovery and economic stability. A newly released report by the United Nations panel of experts says Libya has played a key role in supporting the Sudan conflict by acting as a logistics and recruitment hub for the Rapid Support Forces (RSF). The report, covering October 2024 to February 2026, highlights growing regional involvement in Sudan's war, now in its 4th year. It states that Libya's Subul al-Salam battalion linked to Khalifa Haftar's forces helped facilitate the entry of foreign fighters, including former Colombian military personnel recruited to support the RSF against the Sudanese Armed Forces (SAF). The report also says this support contributed to the RSF's June 2025 offensive in the Uwainat area near the Sudan-Egypt-Libya border. The findings are expected to increase international pressure on Libyan actors involved, while also drawing attention to regional reactions, including reported concern from Egypt over developments in Libya's role in the conflict. The Democratic Bloc has completed preparations for its second organizational meeting aimed at strengthening coordination among political and civil groups. The meeting is intended to unify positions against the Rapid Support Forces (RSF) and the Sumud Alliance while supporting state institutions. It will take place from April 25 to April 27 in Port Sudan. Discussions will focus on the future political landscape and improving internal organization and coordination. The group says the goal is to create a stronger political front to counter what it describes as destabilizing forces and to protect the national agenda.
اللجنة السياسية لكتلة ديمقراطية اجتمعت، واجتماع كان بشكل عاجل لتناول موضوع ما سمي بتأسيس مجموعة العصابة أو سرب العصابة بما سميت بالحكومة. فهذا الأمر نحن في الحقيقة وجدنا أنه أمر خطير ويعتبر خطوة صارخة للتدخل الدولي أكثر من الخطوات القادمة.
That's all for this week. Stay informed and stay aware. We'll see you next week with a new episode of Sudan in a Week. Have a wonderful night.